Right. And here we are. It's July 30th, last day of July, I think. I don't think there's a
Tomorrow.
31st.
Tomorrow's the last day.
Oh, there is a 31st. Okay. And it's 2020. And here with Barbara and Tom, and Tom Ryan Remembers. And I'm Kevin. And today we're going to talk about restaurants and eating out. We had a previous episode about food and cooking and things like that, but this one a little bit different about eating out. So I guess you guys put together a few pictures about some interesting places that you've eaten.
First of all, Kevin, let me tell you something about July 31st. My sister-in-law, Geneva, her birthday is on July 31st, but she would always say, it's not July 31st, it's the 30 last. Just
Okay.
Anyway, that was a little family joke. So
Yeah.
I'm going to share the screen now, right?
Just
Okay, just yeah. Before that, a little bit of background. When you were kids, or you didn't. When you were talking about food before, you said you very rarely went out to restaurants as kids, or even as young adults, because you had a big family and things like that. But I don't know now. In the States, anyway, people go out to restaurants a lot, or they used to
Yes.
until the pandemic, anyway. But yeah, and not so much here in Japan. And we do go out occasionally, but not nearly as often as in the States. So you guys have been to quite a few restaurants in your lifetime. And eventually I do want to ask, it's like what was, some real highlights of restaurants. Maybe you could show that us with pictures or without, either one. But yeah, some good stories about restaurants.
I think I grew up in the Depression, and there were a few restaurants, and they were used by usually traveling workers, that traveling salesmen and workers that had to travel, and they'd stop off at a restaurant and get a meal. But most food was eaten at home, and it was a lot cheaper prepared that way. We figured a restaurant meal cost about twice as much as the same meal prepared at home. And women didn't work, so that's how they saved money, by their cooking. And families where the mother worked, that was, I think, one of the first big uses of restaurants. When mother went to work, then she didn't want to cook when she came home, and they'd go out to dinner. And unless the husband wanted to take turns cooking, and that was a slow process that men started cooking. One thing about Barbara's cooking, she's a wonderful cook. For one thing, I lost 30 pounds, not because she put me on a diet.
It could be because my food is so bad you won't eat it.
No, it's very healthy food, and it's very tasty food, but it isn't fattening food. It's very healthy, and I think she's what I would be happy to just eat her food all the time. I don't need a restaurant for a change. Going to McDonald's today and eating McDonald's hamburger, I don't think I've had one for a couple of years. And so it's kind of a treat, I guess, eating French fries. But that's, I just wanted to say that about when we start talking about this wonderful cooking.
Yeah.
I have to say something too. I know he likes my cooking, but he really does like to go out to eat, and so do I. So that's one of the things that first, attracted us to each other was, just going out to eat to a nice restaurant. And we've done a lot of that in our travels over the past 10 years. And I love to take pictures of the restaurant food because it's usually so beautiful and so well presented. And I remember our first.
You guys don't just go to steak and potato places. You go to unusual restaurants, right?
No, I do you remember the restaurant in Prague that we went to on our first anniversary?
We've only been married a year.
And it was just a ordinary restaurant, but it was a very special time for us. And lots of times we do go on our anniversaries in October, your birthday and our wedding anniversary. So yeah, we've had a lot of memorable meals.
We do
together.
go out, right? And we enjoyed, especially in San Miguel Allende. We've talked about that before. It's in the middle of Mexico, and we've been there for a whole month staying in a bed and breakfast. Then we went back a few years later and stayed another month. So we've been in San Miguel more than probably any other town besides our own Loveland, Colorado. And San Miguel has wonderful restaurants, and we didn't get any food in our bed and breakfast except breakfast, which was a whole meal talking to people, and we learned a lot of things at the breakfast table, and that was a wonderful experience.
So what did you have for breakfast? Was it like
lunch and dinner? We would eat out, and at different restaurants every day. We loved that. 2 months total of eating out like that.
So tell everybody about this poi. This is we went to a luau in Hawaii, and we were there with my nephew and niece, Tom and Dale Koenig, and actually Julia was there and met Tom and Dale when she was working for the wedding company. But Tom and Dale took us to a traditional Hawaiian luau, and the 4 things that were very, very traditional, and I don't think anybody eats anymore. This is called lau lau, which I don't even remember. It looks kind of like old spinach. But this poi is something that was unique, and nobody really liked it.
No, it looks and tastes like library paste, and it's eaten by the people of the tropics, and by probably it's more than 1 billion people eat cassava, it's called in some countries, breadfruit. The English called it breadfruit because it is high in starch, and they were going to feed people on breadfruit in the factories of England if they could.
Okay.
And Captain Bligh was distributing.
He wants to talk.
We want to move it along. Yes, we're getting too much deep, because move it along. Yeah.
Okay. Now here's some things from Myanmar, which you might want to talk about, Kevin.
Well, yeah, the dishes there in Myanmar, we'd get many small bowls of different things, and so you could like go and point and just they would fish it out and put it into a small bowl. Yeah.
This looks like really hot chili peppers. This looks like some fish, and of course the beans and rice and things like that.
How did you get it out of the tin bowls? You didn't eat out of those bowls.
No, they would put it on your plate, and then we would have some. So we went to New Orleans, and we went to a cooking school,
Barbara took this cooking school class in New Orleans, but I just watched and ate.
So, this is grits, which we don't have so much in the north, but you have to eat grits when you go to a restaurant in the south.
Yeah.
We had lots of different types of grits. Some were sweeter than others, some were creamier than others, but I just love grits.
Somehow they take corn and they put something on it that sounds terrible, bleach or something on the corn, and that makes it into
hominy.
Yeah, and this was in Natchez, Mississippi, which was on that New Orleans trip, and
What's
we were
the
in
big
old. What?
There's a big pie there. What's in the big pie?
Yeah, well, it looks kind of like a
pecan pie, probably.
I'm not sure. Maybe an apple pie with a beautiful crust on it. But this was in an old antebellum mansion, and the waitresses and the servers were all dressed in Civil War era clothing, and so that was some of the gracious South
New Orleans is in Louisiana, but this mansion was in Mississippi.
Yeah,
But it
and
wasn't less than 50 miles from, we went up the river a little ways.
we went to Avery Island, which is close to New Orleans, and it's where they make all the Tabasco. They grow the peppers there, and they have secret recipes that they won't share with anybody. And so that was kind of interesting. Yeah.
Most of the people think that Tabasco comes from Mexico, and they just pulled that name out of the air. I don't know if it's even a Spanish name, and they just used it, and it's a kind of a hot sauce. So people thought, oh, it must come from Mexico, but it comes from near New Orleans.
Okay, these are some pictures from when we went on a cruise up the Atlantic coast from New York all the way to Nova Scotia. But this was in Bar Harbor, Maine, and it was a lobster boil.
Nice.
And we could choose the lobster we wanted, and corn and
mussels.
lobster and brown
Mussels.
bread and mussels. Oh my gosh, did we ever pig out?
So did you use the butter sauce?
Oh yeah, I think there's the butter sauce.
Yeah.
And then they give you a little pliers that you can crack the shell open with.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think this is in Nova Scotia, isn't it?
it's in Bar Harbor, Maine.
Maine, okay. They're border one another.
Yeah.
They have lots of lobster up there.
And this was a restaurant in Saratoga, Wyoming. Well, actually, it was the ice cream place that we got this delicious ice cream, and then we bought the 2 mugs. Those red mugs, Kevin, you brought 2 of them too.
Oh, right. Yes, right. Yeah.
So
real tip. You know, that one looks exactly like a restaurant that is up in up in the mountains above Loveland, where Kelly's husband's father was sheriff. What was it called? In
Nederland.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
And our restaurant was, we went there when the kids were little quite a bit, and they had this wonderful, wonderful tofu scramble that was tofu scramble.
Okay.
So having scrambled eggs, it was scrambled tofu, and they seasoned it just right. And so we kept going back every year.
Okay, now this is in the Yucatan. Last year I went on a mission trip to the Yucatan Peninsula Mission, and we had a few side trips when we weren't working, when we weren't pouring concrete in the 105-degree, 100 humidity temperature. We always started really early in the morning and did our work, and then in the afternoon we could either take a siesta or this was a little trip.
And the restaurants?
Well, this was in the jungle. It wasn't exactly a restaurant, but it was a jungle home, and there was a brick house where the couple lived, but they did all their cooking outside. This is her kitchen. And she gave us some fruit, and it's not papaya, but it's indigenous to that part of Mexico.
Isn't that the seed?
That's the inner part of it.
The pit, yeah.
Yeah. And
this is Yucatan is in the southern part of Mexico, and it's Mayan Indian country.
Right.
But, and it's where a lot of Americans go on the beaches and so on.
So
let's see. I was going to say, can I take over here a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. Let's see. There we go. And just to follow up on Myanmar, there's just a few more pictures here. This one, this is Frank. They cut off coconuts and stick a straw in it, and that's a summer drink. They keep the
Yum.
coconuts in refrigerators. Here, oh, is some mango that was so good. It's out of focus there, but this mango is like eating mango ice cream that is warm. But it was just,
Is it the orange? The
yeah, the
orange
orange
right
stuff.
here?
Yeah, right. And the white stuff is Japanese fruit that is what called a Japanese apple pear. But normally a dinner would look like this with lots of different foods, mostly vegetables, some fruit, and they'd put it into these canisters, which were made in India usually, and so people would go to work with these canisters in the corner instead of going to a restaurant. But if you go to a restaurant, let's see. Oh, this is a coffee table with. Let's see. Oh, here's a typical restaurant in Myanmar. And again, you see the people with all the dishes on the table. They're all separate, and most of it's on at home. People would serve that sometimes right on the floor with coffee, but more traditionally, you get it. This is at our school. The ladies would bring lunch every day, and we'd have it for lunchtime. But if I'm going to search and do a little bit wider search here for food. You can see here in Japan, this is the first of many courses of a Japanese meal. And again, there's just tiny little bits of lots of different things here. And here's the second course of the same dinner. Oh, here's a picture of a burrito, I think. This was the worst Mexican food I've ever had in my life. It was on
I was going to say that doesn't look
Not in Japan.
very Mexican.
it was in the middle of, where was it? Kansas, I think. On the way to Iowa from Denver last year, I drove the whole thing, and we stayed one night in a hotel. But the nearest restaurant was this Mexican restaurant. That this was only $7, I will have to say, but it was really, really awful. But we went to a restaurant when I went up to visit Jeff and Chrissy in Anchorage last year. But we find out that actually home cooked fish that Jeff caught was much better than the $250 restaurant meal that we had the night before. The
Oh
four of
my.
us. Yeah. Let's see. This is how do you say it? Party. We have a party once a year for all the teachers, and this is a typical thing where it's all set up and people wander around and do that. Let's see. Restaurants. Oh, trying to think here. More Myanmar. This is our annual school trip. Everybody gets a meal there, and they're all just ready to eat.
Kevin, you take after your dad. I think you like restaurants and food just like he does.
Yeah, I do. But Myanmar used to be called Burma, and it's next to India, and used to be part of the British Empire. You were talking about Myanmar. You've been there 4 times, more than Barbara's been there. 4 summers. You took your summer vacations in Myanmar.
There we go. Let's see. This is
One of Dan.
That's Dan last summer at a burger joint downtown Denver.
Oh.
They have really good burgers. This is at a conference I went to last summer in Iowa, where we had 9 people at the table and 8 different nationalities. This is the organizer of the conference. She's a famous linguist. And let's see.
Did you speak English or what?
Yeah. This was in Iowa. Uh, let's see. This is advertisement for Lowry's roast beef, and that's a huge cut. But we go to this restaurant once a year with my poker buddies. Uh, this is the local watering hole where
Oh. Those are your friends?
yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And let's see. Oh, that's enough for me. Yeah, we're going on too long. So, any ideas about your favorite restaurants or some of your favorite restaurants that really kind of stick in your memory?
I guess Myanmar mostly because we were there for a total of 2 months.
Mexico.
Mexico.
Yeah.
But not Myanmar. I have never been to Myanmar. Barbara's been there. Kevin went there 4 different summers. So
Well, I remember
yeah,
I remember the dinner that we had in Glenwood Springs for the 50th wedding anniversary. That was nice. It was kind of impromptu. We couldn't find the place we wanted to go to. That was closed, and so we went to the hotel right there downtown Glenwood Springs. That was a very memorable dinner.
yes. Well, that was a wonderful gathering. Just before Marilyn died, we had our 50th wedding anniversary, and the whole family came, and we had guest Kevin from Tokyo and came from all far away places. So that was in 1955, and we ate in restaurants the whole time, different restaurants.
This is a place in Yucatan called Isla Mujeres. It's an island off of Cancun.
The
And,
Isle of Women.
It's the island of women is what but
Women's
it means,
Island.
Women's Island. And it's a peninsula, and at the very tip of the peninsula, which is right here, it's it's where the Gulf of Mexico meets the Caribbean Sea, the Caribbean. And so we had a wonderful meal. This is our pastor. This is ceviche, which is raw fish that's kind of marinated in lime juice. And you can see the difference in the water here. This is, I think, the Gulf of Mexico, and this is the Caribbean. So that was a just lovely place. And there's another picture here, if I can find it. Oh, it's this one. You can see here is a lizard, and that's one of the smaller ones that were crawling around while we were eating our lunch.
Outdoors.
This is a plate of nachos.
I was looking at on the food for where's the lizard? I only see nachos.
Right here.
All right.
Okay.
I thought you were eating cooked lizards.
No. This is nachos with guacamole and peppers and good cheese and all kinds of good stuff. So that was a very, very memorable meal that we had.
Nachos are appetizers in Spanish.
This was breakfast buns. Mexico really has wonderful baked goods.
Oh, yes.
And this was at our hotel in Isla Mujeres. We went there the last day of our work trip, our mission trip to Yucatan. So this was our one day of true vacation. And our pastor rented a motorbike with room for 3 of us on it in the back. She drove and we were in the back. It was a 3-wheeler bike. And she drove us all around the island, and she drove like a maniac. I'll tell you, we had to hang on for dear life, but that was very memorable.
One of the memorable things that I ate with Maki's family we went to an onsen, hot springs, where you eat stuff like this and have big meals. And this was the last big dinner trip that we had together. as a family before Oji-san died,
Oh,
Maki's father.
I see.
Yeah.
First time we got to Japan in Nagoya, where Maki's parents lived and where Maki grew up. And before you were married, you were about to get married, but uh, Maki's mother served a wonderful meal. It seemed like she was running back and forth to the kitchen to
Very
have
common.
everything just prepared perfectly and heated.
Right.
It was delicious. And of course, we didn't speak Japanese, but you kids translated for us and we
Right.
communicated. It was a fun evening. Wonderful.
Anyway, we should close this off. It's gone on far too long. Maybe we'll have another episode of with a little bit more planning, but I'm glad we all got some different ideas in here. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
Kevin.
you.